All right, welcome back. I've knitted as far as I want to on the leg portion of my sock. And so now we're through the chart of the leg, and the pattern calls for a 3x1 ribbing where you knit 3, purl 1, knit 3, purl 1. I'm going to choose not to do that. I'm going to do a different ribbing because remember on the side of mine I have this kind of column that I chose to do up the side, and that's four knit stitches in a row right there. I just have them split in half. But I'm going to shuffle things around on my needles a little bit, and I'm going to do a 4x2 ribbing rather than what the pattern calls for. And so I'm going to do that for an inch or so until or so I like how the cuff looks, and then I'll show you what that looks like, and we'll go from there. You go ahead and do whatever ribbing you prefer, however you want that to look, whether that's 2x2 or 1x1, or the 3x1 ribbing that the pattern calls for. I finished my ribbing, the 4x2, so I'm pretty pleased about how that turned out. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to do a sewn bind off that's pretty stretchy here. This is Elizabeth Zimmerman's sewn bind off. And so what you want to do is just cut your yarn from each of the supply balls that you had from your project bag. So you want to cut your yarn. I like to do it at least 3 times the diameter of each sock. And so that's, probably 24 inches or so. And I always have plenty when I do that, but I just like to make sure. So you're going to thread that onto a tapestry needle or your darning needle. And then you're going to start by going in underneath these first 2 stitches as if to purl. All right, go in under both of those, being careful not to split stitches as if to purl. Okay, pull that snug. And then you're going to go back into the first one as if to knit. All right, then you can take off just the first one. Let me wait for the camera to focus there. Sorry about that. So you're going to take off just the first one, being careful not to split the stitch as I just did. Whoops. Oh dear. Okay. So under the first 2 as if to purl, and then go back into the first one as if to knit. There you go, and then let that first one pop off the end. Okay, give that a little bit of a snug. Okay, first 2 as if to purl. There we go. And go back in the first one as if to knit. There you go. And now you're just going to carry on going around, getting off 1 stitch in each time that we do that, and that's the way we're going to bind off the entire way. I like this bind off because it's good and stretchy, but it makes a nice top, or a nice edge as well. It's a pretty clean looking edge, and you'll notice that more as we get a few more done. So let me do a few more, at least one whole side here, and then I'll show you. All right, I've gotten almost the first half of this first sock done, and see, that makes a pretty nice edge there. Now, the reason I said almost the first half is I do have this 1 stitch left, and because we're doing 2 up at a time, or knitting 2 at a time, I can't sew that one on to the next one, so I'm gonna have to leave this for now until I come back, around on this other side. So right now I need to just leave that be, and I'm going to pull my magic loop through, and I'm just going to put this here to hang on to it for now so that I don't drop the stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that cable around just to make sure that I have enough tension on it not to lose it. Now if you have one of those little locking stitch markers, it might be a good idea to put that in there instead so it's easy to pick back up. I don't happen to own any of those, and so I'm just going to find a way to kind of tuck that around and keep that safe while I go ahead and bind off the first half of this other sock that's on this needle. Now the other option obviously would be to just go ahead and separate your 2 socks, take them off of your 1 long cable needle before you begin the sewn bind off. You could just remove them and detach them from the same cable needle. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same sewn bind off. See, this is my stitch. I just need to keep track of that. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is just poke that needle down in there, and then I know it won't go anywhere. So I'm going to thread this on my tapestry needle or my darning needle. I'm going to do the same thing I did, and when I have the first half of this needle free, when I have one stitch left, I can just slip it around the cable and continue along this back side. And I'll show you that in a moment so it's clear what I mean. I'm down to the last 2 stitches of this one side, and then I'll show you how I handle the switching over to the other needle. So I'm going to go in here just like before, as if to purl, and then back through this one as if to knit, and that's going to leave 1 stitch only on my needle. So if you're magic looping, all you want to do is just go ahead and pull that on through, go ahead and pull it on the cable, and then put it, that places it on the back side. So now I'm just going to work this around. I'm going to pull my cable through this side, and then I'm going to carefully turn my work. I'm being careful not to lose this stitch that I still have tucked in here from before. So I'm just going to turn everything over, and I'm just going to continue on with that same sock. And then when I'm done with that sock, I can take it off, and then I'll do the same thing where I'll just pull this needle through, place that lonely stitch on the side with the rest, and then can carry on. All right, I've finished the first sock and gotten that one off the other end there of the needles. Now I'm just going to do the same thing that we did before, where I have this lonely stitch here, and I'm just going to transfer it to the same needle that's housing the rest of the stitches, and I'm just going to carry on doing my sewn bind off until I get to the end, and then I'll show you how I like to kind of finish everything off. Just 2 stitches left, and then we'll be done and ready to weave in the ends and wear new socks. So when I get to the end, I go back through the first one as if to knit, just like we have been all along. And then on the very last one, I just go in as if to purl in the same, in the same pattern and the same way we've been doing it. And then I like to just kind of weave this tail end. Now, that kind of sticks up because it's a little bit of a jog where this extra row comes around. So I just go in close by down below here, and I go back in under, just like when you're sewing and you just do a little bit of a knot right there. And I just do that just to secure it. Actually, there we go. And then I like to kind of tack that down. That has an extra little bump that's bigger. I just start weaving in this end back and forth along the top ridge, or the very top edge. I just do that a few times. And then once I've done that a little bit, I pull this and stretch it back out so it's not puckered or gathered at all. And then I'll just turn this inside out, and I'll go down one of these knit columns, which is really a purl on this side, and I just weave in all my ends. So there you have it. All right, we did it. We got the 2 at a time toe up socks finished. The pattern was okay. It wasn't my favorite, but that's all right. It's one of those where it kind of grows on you as you go through it. And then, the most important thing was that my daughter really liked it. And so the socks were for her. So that's the most important thing. The next project that we're going to do together is going to be the Harvest Cardigan Knit Along series. That'll start next month. And we're going to do that as part of the Sloth series. So we're going to go pretty slowly through that, step by step. And I'm going to do a series tutorial. I've knitted several sweaters before, but I've never done a tutorial in this way, so this will be a new experience for me too. So join me for that. Click like and subscribe down below. Feel free to join me on Facebook in our Purl Together group there, as well as our Ravelry group. Okay, I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Thanks.